today plan is to continue with what we have presented yesterday, give to you more inputs, and in this case, we have a special thing to present for you because we are presenting the preliminary results for our international survey, where we asked about where, how, and when people they work in this field. So they need to present those preliminary results. However, normally, for us, it's impossible to do anything without starting with music. So let's start with the first song of the day.
Singing with me. De mi corazón. De mi corazón. Adoro mi adoro mi Señor. Adoro estás en mi corazón. En mi corazón. Adoro mi Señor. Adoro estás en mi corazón. En mi corazón.
The music. So, as we talk, today will be the time to talk more about our survey. So, if you want to scan, of course, not to fill out now. But if you want to see the questions, in this case in Spanish, of course, I will present them in English. But if you work in Latin America, Caribbean, and you didn't have time yet, you have a chance want to photograph or just take a link for this. So yes, that will be fine. When we do something so complicated as when we have a survey, I think it's important to acknowledge who really took care of starting this project and developing different things. So here we want to have our special acknowledgement to Cecilia Di Princi, whose vision led to the creation of the Latin American Caribbean Network of Musicoterapia for Early Childhood in 2014, and whose continued dedication has sustained growth in the space for passion exchange and collective knowledge, production, regional collaboration, and meaningful human connections. So our sincere gratitude to all colleagues, collaborations, authors, and network members who have contributed to this shared journey. Yes, so for us, it's also important just say a little bit, of course I will not repeat everything, but just saying that we started our work in 2014, and then we started with the work of our specific journal that we have in our business. So we are completing really good of time of many different issues that they are open access in both Portuguese and Spanish. And as I said yesterday, everybody is welcome to publish. So if you need somebody to translate to Spanish or Portuguese, we are so happy to help you in this process. Yes. So I think it's also nice to have this summary that our network brings together music therapists from Latin America and Caribbean who are committed to promoting collaboration across countries, advancing knowledge in early childhood music therapy, supporting professional development, building a shared professional identity, and strengthening regional disability. Okay, so probably you're thinking, why early childhood matters? And I think this is important to have a kind of a short discussion about this because I'm not sure when you give your training or education in music therapy, that probably you heard about developmental psychology or something like that. But things have changed and now we use more the term development throughout the lifespan. So we have something broader. And what we normally learn in those courses is that there are moments during the development lifespan that some important things they will happen. And perhaps if they will happen in a specific moment, perhaps it will be possible to return. And the early childhood is one of those moments. So it's a key period for development, relationships, and social participation. So early childhood is a unique developmental stage characterized by brain development, family relationship, developmental plasticity, environmental influences, and of course, equity and rights. Music and music therapy can contribute to developmental, relational, and community processes during this crucial. So this is the reason that for us, giving the attention of the spirit is so relevant. Even though I didn't plan that, but I think it's important, maybe I'll stop sharing and see if this works. Yes. I'm pretty curious to know where exactly you go when you need to study about typical development, because even if you work in the early childhood, but in different conditions or in specific mental health disorders, I'm pretty curious where you search for this kind of information. And if I have something to recommend that many of us we use in our region, we have the CDC developmental milestones. So it's a web page where you can search for everything that is happening in the development from 0 to 6 years, or of course we have more. But basically, they really focus in the first years that you can study in many different ways what is going on. So this is a nice way to understand the early childhood. And of course, yes, something that we use a lot in Latin America because they have all the different information also in Spanish. So we use a lot. So of course, when I facilitate this and when I teach my students, I also say to them, it's so relevant to understand what is happening in the early childhood. Please try to see if you are really somebody that we know about. This is so relevant because besides being a good music therapist, we need to know about the typical development. Yes. So returning to our slides. So we have seen a little bit about the typical development and why this is so relevant. And now for us, what's pretty important to understand, okay, if we know that this is important, we need to understand the identity of those professionals that they are working in this field. So how we have this constructive perspective of where, how, and why people are working. So this question about 2 years of dialogue, publications, conferences, and collaborative work within the network. Because the thing is, if we want to know something and we want to change something, perhaps first we need to understand what is happening maybe in this specific situation. And perhaps it would be interesting because maybe you will be thinking about your region or what is going on in the region with our discussions here. So, and of course, we have all those their colleagues who participated creating this specific survey. And I think you can see that we started in 2014, then we went through the Latin American conference in 2022, and then we had a special issue regarding this specific topic. And 2025, we had the first version of the survey, and then this year we have launched the specific survey and where we are presenting here the preliminary results. And probably you're thinking, yes, but we want to understand different topics like the current practices, to identify shared challenges, to recognize regional specificities, and of course, support specialized training. So I will stop sharing, and I want to show you just a really quick overview about our survey that we elaborated for our colleagues for working. So of course, to understand and see the profile in this field. Of course, we asked about personal information, level of training, music therapy, experience with early childhood, that's important. And perhaps here, even though that I have other slides to present, I want to show you because we have created a map just to show you how I just will stop sharing for a moment just to bring because this information is important. You know that we have different ways of having training around the globe. And of course, in our region, we have a pretty diverse way of having trainings. Because, for example, we have trainings in bachelor programs, we have master programs, and also we have some specific programs that they have what they call just a certificate or single certification. And this is something that I want to show you just to give an idea. So as you saw in this conference, we are really enjoying presenting the Latin American map many times, and we are doing it here again. So all the countries where you see colors, they are the countries that we have any kind of level of music therapy training. All the ones with the dark blue are the countries that they only have the bachelor in music therapy, normally programs between 3 to 5 years of education. Then we have that the case of Brazil that we have this kind of this mixed perspective because we have the bachelor programs and we have something that we call specialization programs that they are only 2 years. However, since April 2026, now we only have bachelor programs in music therapy because like Argentina, Panama, and Puerto Rico, we have the national law also running for us. So we have also a new program now, bachelor program in Paraguay, that they have the bachelor degree. Of course, in Uruguay, we have the bachelor degree. Chile, we have, and Mexico, we have in Chile the specialization, in Mexico kind of certificate course. And then we have some other things that are slightly different, both Cuba, Puerto Rico, and in Colombia, we have the master degree in music therapy. I think this is important for you to understand how diverse we are in terms of how we understand the profession, because people, depending on the country, they will receive completely different level of education. Okay, so just verifying, so as I said about the level of training, experience with early childhood is important, format, how many years, exactly the way that you range, you have your office, the clinic, if it's home care, if it's online. This is very important for us if you are in public institutions, private institutions. What is the practice and cultural perspective? So prevention and promotion of healthy development, early development, stimulation, patients, family center, and so on. And of course, the key areas that educators or have educators to work, developmental milestones, communication, emotional regulation, and of course, all, and of course, will not leave. And also, the things that you need to consider are taken into account when you are working in this field, all those elements that we are describing. If you include or not family in the process, also important, and where exactly. Continuing education, this is also a topic that we raised in what field. And also we did this question if the colleague just had a chance to see or not our specific journal about this field. So yes, and probably you are waiting and probably looking forward to see the results. But now we do our second break for our second musical activity before going for more operational stuff. Yes? Would you like to take a turn?
Yes.
Yes, that would be nice.
Hi, I'm Luciana from Brazil, and my name is so bad. But here we can try because we do play in no level. And I will play now because that early childhood music therapist needs is to play to engage the children in the musical experience. Because playing, the children discover their voice and have their cognitive, social, and emotional development. So let's play in verbal in Portuguese. Okay, okay.
Vowels.
Vowels. Português. A, I, O, U. A, I, O, U. A, I, O, U. The music is how I sing. How I sing, but in Portuguese. Quando eu digo okay. Quando eu digo abadabadá. Quando eu digo abadabadá. Quando eu digo abadabadá. Quando eu digo okay? Let's go.
Yes.
Okay. One faster.
Now we try to switch partners for doing the same thing, but now with different people. Let's see how it's be. The same activity, but now with somebody different. Yeah. Sí, yeah. Okay. One example of how we engage in therapy sessions for early childhood doing practical things. And as you can see, even for adults could be hard sometimes when we put that together. Something pretty interesting before introducing our results. So, as you saw, professional background, training pathways, practical settings, developmental priorities, family involvement, and professional identity. They are things that we have observed in this specific survey, but remember, two important things. We are only describing the preliminary results. These are not the final results. So if you know somebody working in this field in Latin America or in the Caribbean, please ask first to fill out the form because maybe this will be different. However, it will be interesting to see what we have until now. So we got 135 music therapists from Latin America and Caribbean, more than 1,200 representatives this year. However, as I said yesterday, we are a bit concerned about the preliminary results because we know that in total, only in Brazil, for example, we are more than 7,000 therapists. In Argentina, more than 4,000. And of course, if we include all the different colleagues, probably have more than 11,000. And we are really concerned that we only received only 135 replies. So we are concerned. We need really, and this is not only about us, everybody that works with surveys, they have a problem. But let's see what we have until now. Okay, as you can see, the country with more answers is Argentina. Of course, the country where the music therapy started in Latin America. 43 people responded, and also we have specific answers from Uruguay, Chile, Colombia, Brazil, Mexico. And it's interesting, we also have the United Kingdom and Cuba. Yes, this is what we have from the forum. Age. So this was pretty interesting that we could see that we have more people working, especially between 50 to 55 years old, and also between 30 and 34. So this is a kind of a nice thing to observe and try to understand the different ages. And perhaps with this information, I also think that, of course, we will see more data, but what is happening here? It seems that people after graduating, they are not interested in this field, so maybe we need to reflect more about that later. Gender. I think this is the typical distribution that we have in our profession. As far as I know, one of the only countries that the distribution is different like that is Finland. But basically, this is what we have more in terms of distribution. So the information is reflecting international trends. Yes, this is important. So until now, we see that people that are working in this field have more people with the bachelor in therapy. This is something relevant to remember. We need more information and also the proportion of people in each country is something relevant to see. Yes, and also this information is something pretty relevant because if you see here, we have kind of two extremes. We have people with a lot of experience working in the field, more than 20 years, or also between 10 to 15 years. But also we have people from 0 to 5 years also representing an important group of people working. I think also this kind of information is so relevant that maybe comparing with other regions could be relevant. So for how many hours do you work with this specific population? And most of the colleagues said between 11 and 20 hours. But also have people working with all the specific people. Okay. I think this is pretty interesting because I don't know about you, but in my mind before doing the survey I was expecting I don't know, but something slightly different. But if we see the difference between group 60 to individual 60 to 41 per group is something not so different, representing that in our region we work a lot with groups. Okay, and where you work, and this is pretty common in our region. People are more in private institutions because we are still trying to get an open public position. So this is something that represents our reality now. So, if we see what we have, we could say that we need really to analyze to understand the developmental perspective that we have here. Also, we saw that we have something related with the family-centered practice. That also some colleagues mentioned this integrative approach that we have in our region. And 86% of the respondents consider early childhood in music therapy to be distinct from other areas of practice. Yes, I think until now, we could say that those things are really also appearing in our different answers in terms of understanding the family involvement, developmental perspective, education, emotional regulation, motor development, language play, and of course, the right-based perspective and social participation. This is what we could receive from the different answers from the. Of course, now we have some important questions for all of us here in terms of what we can discuss. But just saying that it's a huge challenge to carry out a survey in such a huge region like our region. And I think that if we refer here to my dear colleague from US, Dr. Eric Walden, that different from other professions like psychology, for example, we didn't come from the research tradition. So this is the reason that perhaps until today it's hard for us to understand that it's so relevant to respond and to participate in those kind of proposals like survey. So we are still in progress, and we really hope that more people they can join us. As I said before, we know that, of course, counting all the populations that we are more than 11,000, and 135 do not represent this complexity in our region. But now, I would like to open the space for our discussion with all of you concerning those elements. And of course, as we did yesterday, feel free if you want to talk English, Portuguese, Spanish, or Italian, that we do our best. Translate to everybody. Yes? Space is yours. Please, questions, reflections.
Thank you very much for the presentation. My name is Fabian. I am audiology and music therapist. I just got certificated in Chile this year, so congrats for the presentation. Their findings are very useful to make a general idea for the situation in Latin America. And I work in a hospital in Chile called Roberto del Rio. It's a pediatric public hospital. So I agree with we must generate more spaces and generate more access for the children in general to access this kind of integral and holistic approach. So thank you very much.
I try to say something in English. Thanks very much, all of you. I know Gustavo that is here, and I think he does things no one does. But it's very interesting, this map of the formation.
Of education and training.
Training, music therapist training in Latin America. But I ask how we are here in Europe, because I don't know. I live here now, but I don't know how is the training here. You have to do this. Another word. Thank you.
This is a really interesting question because many of us I think Cora also is in the same page, because Cora is from Argentina, living in Spain, so I'm from Brazil, living in Portugal and working in Denmark. But we are trying to build community in Latin America and Caribbean, and I think this is an important point. I think that we are trying to do here in Europe, of course, for many different reasons in our lives we are here. But I think that the main mission is try to see how we here can collaborate with our region, but also how our region can collaborate with people in Europe. I think the topic and the theme for this conference, Connecting Bridges, is so relevant. I think it's easy to say, but really hard to apply. We are in a conference without any translation to any other language. I think that we need more inclusive prices and fees for people for coming in conferences. I think that we need to fight for it. I understand that it's complicated, but this is not, it's not about the organization, it's about all of us. How can we do the thing for all of us? And this is the thing, so we need to talk about our regions, and we need to be sometimes an immigrant at the same time, and we need to understand this complex reality that we have there in this moment. I think that I really hope that more and more in our profession, we don't need to be shy to say who we are, that we don't need to be shy to say what we want to say without nobody saying what is the correct, what is the right way of doing it. Because still, we are many, but if you see the publications or people that are doing research, normally they come from the same countries as always in our profession. But they are doing their parts, and we need to do our part. And this is the reason that creating community, publishing in different journals from our region and also in English, it's a way that we can connect more. So yes, it's a really important topic.
Buenas tardes, felicitaciones por el trabajo. Vengo de Chile, ¿sí? No hablo bien inglés.
So thank you so much for your work. I'm came from Chile and I don't have a good English.
Pero no quería estar ausente en este mundial y quedé con dos trabajos. Quería mostrar lo que estábamos haciendo en Chile y no quería que el idioma fuera la causante de no hacerlo.
And I did my best for being here, especially to present what we are doing in Chile. And also I'm here presenting two proposals at this conference.
Y me quedé reflexionando cómo es posible que un mundial no tenga traducción.
And for me, I'm really reflecting, how can we have a World Congress without translation?
Y conversando en los pasillos, me encontré con otros latinoamericanos que no expusieron sus trabajos por temor a inglés.
And I have talked to other colleagues during this conference, colleagues from other places from Latin America, and they also did all.
Yo me preparé para mis trabajos en inglés.
I have prepared myself then.
Y pienso que si queremos crecer, debemos ser inclusivos.
And if you want to grow as a profession, we need to be inclusive.
Espero que el próximo mundial tenga estas consideraciones, porque Latinoamérica tiene mucho que mostrar y las diferencias culturales por el idioma no pueden ser un impedimento.
And I really hope that in the future we can have translations. And it's really important that all those multicultural issues will not be something that can stop purpose.
Bueno, yo soy la primera musicoterapeuta en Chile, salida desde una universidad en 2018 y yo 18 años, o sea, en 2008, yo 18 años haciendo musicoterapia.
So I was the first music therapist in Chile who completed the degree in the country, and then since then I've been developing my work.
Gracias. Está muy bien.
Yes. So if you want, remember that I have here the QR code. You want to see that? Yes? Yeah, but please. Yes, perfect.
De Latinoamérica.
It's
Sí,
the
Latinoamérica.
Caribe or Latin America. Wow, that was so nice. So for people that they were asking for the translation for the song, basically, this is a lullaby song that we can sing in Spanish from this tradition of those instruments from South America that we use like the charango. It's really typical in countries like Argentina and Chile, for example. And thanks a lot for the So I think that for us at this moment, just to say and ask people to get in touch with us in a different places and different platforms. So we are the music therapy project part of the Latin American Legal Network. As I said yesterday, I will repeat again. I understand the conflict of power that only me that talk in English in this presentation, but this again was a view that we that this work was done with many minds and many different hands, and only because of the language that was in charge for that. And wow, really happy about representing each of my colleagues that they are here in person, the colleagues that they are in their different places with us online at this moment. Gracias a todos, de verdad. So yes, I hope you have had a great time, and please keep going, connecting words to this conference. Thank you so much. So